The Lost City Beneath Us, Agartha's Hidden Civilization. The name Agartha entered circulation in modern esoteric literature as a symbol of a civilization hidden deep within the earth. This symbol is a composite not of a single myth, but of different cultural motifs, mistranslations, and the occult imagination of the 19th and 20th centuries. Looking at its origins, there is no convincing evidence that Agartha, under that exact name, is found directly in an ancient source. Instead, it is a narrative that overlaps with themes of sacred centers like Shambhala and Abraham, reinterpreted and shaped in Western mystical circles. This narrative imagines the subterranean world as both a physical space and a realm where humanity's lost knowledge, spiritual maturity, and mysterious power are stored. Thus, Agartha ceases to be merely a geographical claim. It becomes a mythological energy, a quest, and a desire that echoes in the modern collective consciousness. The late 19th and early 20th centuries were a time when Western fascination with Asian cultures, and the subsequent decontextualization and refabrication of elements taken from them, reached its peak. The translation practices, traveler reports, and occult publishing of that era reshaped motifs transmitted from Tibet, India, and Central Asia. The metaphorical narratives of Shambhala, local legends about underworld kings and cave temples were rebraided by European mystical writers. In this process, intuitive or deliberate distortions in the translation of texts led to the materialization of the narrative. An inner world conception that was mappable, had gateways, and was connected by tunnels replaced abstract spiritual centers. Thus, Agartha gained the potential to become both a geographical and a spiritual reality in the reader's mind. The mystical quests of different ideological circles before and during the Second World War added a new layer to the Agartha legend. Some political movements, particularly ultranationalist and occult-leaning groups, tried to incorporate the lost civilizations of the past into their legitimacy discourses. In this context, isolated geographies like Tibet, Antarctica, and remote island chains were frequently mentioned in speculative literature as possible gateways to Agartha. During this period where exploratory curiosity and political aims were intertwined, many claims spread based on ideological desire rather than archaeological data. Thus, Agartha transformed from merely a mystical assumption into a narrative where a mystical metaphor was turned into a political tool. Efforts to geographically materialize Agartha claims often targeted the valleys of the Himalayas, the Tibetan Plateau, caves in the South American rainforests, and the subglacial frontiers of the polar regions. Old traveler reports about these places, local folk tales, and early mapping deficiencies fed speculative literacy. Journalism and popular publishing carried the story to the masses by presenting this material in a sensational language. Eye-catching reports contributed to the spread of the myth before objective verification. However, with the accessibility of modern geophysics, satellite imagery, and seismic analysis, the true nature of underground structures became measurable more precisely, and many speculative maps and claims were refuted or reinterpreted. From a geology and earth sciences perspective, the existence of a large-scale, continuous, and viable underground civilization is challenging for practical reasons. The Earth's internal structure, its dense mantle, liquid outer core, and conditions of high temperature and pressure, is not conducive to the permanent sustenance of vast, continuous voids. Underground spaces can have micro-scale functions for ritual, storage, or shelter. Mines, religious caves, or refuges have existed historically. However, resources to support sun energy-dependent photosynthesis, extensive agricultural areas, and large populations are limited underground. This makes the permanent existence of a civilization like Agartha improbable. While these physical facts weaken the practical claims of the myth, they do not erode its cultural and psychological impact. Archaeological records are generally far from supporting Agartha claims. Discovered cave settlements, tunnels, and underground structures are mostly examples serving local, limited, and specific social functions. These findings do not confirm the global or high-technology-equipped civilization model claimed for Agartha. In contrast, anthropological studies shed light on the ritual uses of caves, the dynamics of local narratives, and the formation of collective memory. Caves and underground spaces play sacred, liminal, and transformative roles in many societies. This social function is one of the fundamental elements forming the mythological ground of the Agartha narrative. Popular culture continued to present Agartha in renewed and layered forms. Novels, films, and games kept it fresh by producing different versions of this myth. New Age movements often interpreted Agartha as a spiritual center, a sanctuary where humanity connects with higher knowledge, or a power focal point preserving the planet's balance. In the Internet age, this narrative rapidly multiplied through unquestioned digital content. Old maps, mislabeled photographs, and distorted sources expanded the myth's online habitat. However, this pervasiveness also emphasizes the importance of critical literacy and the necessity of interdisciplinary evidence-based inquiry. No matter how attractive a fascinating hypothesis may seem, it must be tested against geological, archaeological, and historical data. The deep roots of the Agartha legend are, in fact, nourished by humanity's ancient curiosity about the concept of the inner world. Almost all civilizations' mythologies contain the idea of a kingdom or living space hidden beneath the earth. In ancient Greece, Hades' underworld; in Mesopotamia, Kur; in Norse mythology, Hell; in Mesoamerican civilizations, Xibalba. In all these different cultures, the underworld was associated not only with death but also with wisdom, secret knowledge, and rebirth. However, Agartha takes these ancient symbolic meanings and combines them with the modern world's desire for lost knowledge. Here, the underworld is no longer just the abode of the dead. It is depicted as a hidden world housing the remnants of a forgotten technology, humanity's ancient past, and a lost civilization. This transformation is closely related, especially to the wave of occultism rising in the West in the late 19th century. Helena Blavatsky's book The Secret Doctrine was one of the first major works blending Eastern mysticism with Western thought, and the concepts of the inner world, 7 root races, and higher levels of consciousness mentioned therein later formed the backbone of the Agartha myth. Blavatsky and the theosophists who followed her suggested that the world consists of both physical and spiritual layers, and that some ancient races withdrew below the surface after catastrophes to sustain their existence. This idea later found great resonance in both occult and pseudoscientific circles. Because Agartha was no longer just a fairyland, but had become an underground civilization, seen as the successor to lost Atlantis, Mu, and Lemuria. In the first half of the 20th century, this idea also attracted the interest of political and cultural movements. Notably, the Thule Gesellschaft, Thule Society, known as the occult wing of Nazi Germany, was among the groups interested in such underground civilizations. Some members of the society supported exploratory expeditions to Tibet and Central Asia. Allegedly, the aim of these expeditions was to trace the footsteps of ancient races of Aryan origin. Although the actual archaeological data obtained was extremely limited, the legends shaped around these expeditions have persisted to this day. The Tibet expedition led by SS officer Ernst Schaefer in 1938 to 1939, in particular, fueled these tales. The interpretation of Schaefer's research, conducted for scientific reasons, by Nazi occultists as a search for a gateway to Agartha, made the story mysterious. During the Cold War era, the Agartha narrative took on a completely different form. This time, claims about an underground civilization became central to conspiracy theories. Some so-called researchers claimed that secret Nazi bases existed in Antarctica, connected by tunnels leading to Agartha. The famous 1947 Operation High Jump expedition, in particular, became a key event in these conspiracy narratives. Although Admiral Richard E. Byrd's exploratory mission in Antarctica was officially for scientific purposes, years later some authors claimed that Byrd had discovered a giant hole leading to the underworld. Despite the fact that no such statement exists in Byrd's actual diaries, the discourse of another world beyond Antarctica became one of the myths of conspiracy culture. At this point, the Agartha narrative transformed into a point where history, politics, and esoteric belief converged. The subject was no longer just a mysterious city or an ancient civilization. It was a proposal for an alternative historiography concerning humanity's origins, identity, and future. This hybrid narrative of the modern era, uniting science and mysticism, spread rapidly, especially among alternative history enthusiasts and spiritual communities. Some claims suggested that the people of Agartha observed humanity's future and would surface during great wars and ecological disasters to guide humanity. Such prophecies were repeatedly brought up, especially during the latter half of the 20th century when the fear of nuclear war was rising. Thus, Agartha became a symbol representing both the salvation within us and the hidden truth. Despite lacking a scientific basis, this myth secured a strong place in the social consciousness. Because when humanity reaches the limits of its own civilization, it always seeks the traces of a civilization that existed before. Agartha is the symbolic map of this quest extending into the depths. The most interesting part forming the third layer of the Agartha legend is the so-called subterranean entrances. Rumors about the existence of these entrances grew from the early 20th century onwards, combining with geological anomalies, exploration stories, and local folk narratives. These claims emerging on different continents created the impression that independent cultures shared the same mystery. Among the most frequently mentioned regions are the Himalayas, the Tibetan Plateau, the Andes Mountains of South America, the Popocatépetl volcano in Mexico, the North Pole, and Antarctica. Each is a place difficult to access and mysterious in terms of natural conditions. Therefore, Agartha rumors used the obscurity of these geographies to their advantage, transforming the inaccessible into the hidden. The concept of Shambhala in Tibet plays a key role in this geographical map of Agartha. In Buddhist texts, Shambhala is described as a kingdom isolated from the world, full of peace and wisdom. It is a place as much spiritual as physical. Western researchers interpreted this concept superficially and materialized it as a country inside the earth. Thus, Shambhala and Agartha became conflated over time. Especially in the 1920s, some theosophical and occult books published in the West claimed that secret cities of both Shambhala and Agartha existed deep in the Himalayas. It was said that the entrances to these cities could only be found by those who were spiritually ready, meaning they were hidden from ordinary eyes. Claims that Tibetan monks spoke of tunnels emerging to the surface also stuck in the minds of Western readers, even though these statements were often translation errors or metaphorical expressions. In South America, the Agartha narrative merged with the cave and underworld motifs of indigenous cultures. Particularly the Cueva de los Tellos, Cave of the Oilbirds, in Ecuador became the center of this legend in South America. In 1969, Argentine researcher Juan Morich claimed to have found a library of an ancient civilization written on golden plates inside the cave. This claim quickly created an international sensation. The visit to the cave by NASA astronaut Neil Armstrong in 1976 further fueled the rumors. In reality, Armstrong's participation was purely for scientific and geological investigation, but the media interpreted the event as extraterrestrial connections or the discovery of Agartha. From that day on, the Tellos cave became the heart of countless conspiracy theories. In some accounts, the cave was presented as a secret tunnel leading to Agartha, in others as the ancient library of the subterranean people. Claims about Agartha around the North Pole and Antarctica gained momentum in the mid-20th century. The largely unexplored nature of the polar regions provided strong material for proponents of the hollow Earth theory. According to this theory, the Earth is not a solid sphere but a hollow structure with massive holes at the poles. Upon entering these holes, one finds a completely different world inside, with its own sun and climate. Books published by William Reed in 1906 and Marshall Gardner in 1913 supported this idea with seemingly scientific arguments. Later, the 1947 Antarctic exploration expedition of American sailor Richard Evelyn Byrd was presented as proof of this theory. According to rumors spread based on Byrd's diaries, Byrd had seen green valleys, giant creatures, and an advanced civilization during his flight. However, in reality, a large part of these alleged diaries were later fabricated or produced as forgeries. Official U.S. Navy records show that Byrd only carried out meteorological and mapping missions. Despite this, the Byrd report achieved sacred text status among conspiracy theorists. Antarctica has since become the new capital of the Agartha myth. Some modern theories suggested that Nazi Germany established secret bases in Antarctica after the war and tried to reach Agartha through tunnels leading underground. These imaginary bases, known as Base 211 or New Swabia, shaped the 20th century rebirth of Agartha. Some sources even claimed that high-ranking Nazi officers who fled after the war were protected by the Agarthan people, even that they formed an alliance with the intraterrestrial civilization. These claims were never verified but, interestingly, proved more long-lived than scientific explanations. Because these narratives carried a powerful psychological structure that fed the allure of the unknown, if there truly is another world inside the Earth, then history is different from what we have been told. These rumors were not confined to historical or esoteric circles, they were resurrected in today's digital age. Hundreds of evidence videos about underground entrances circulate on YouTube, Reddit, and various forums. Dark circles allegedly seen in satellite images, strange openings on mountain slopes, symmetrical shapes emerging from beneath glaciers. Most of these are natural formations or optical illusions, but the human mind has a unique tendency to assign meaning to the unknown. Each image feeds the Agartha myth a little more, because even in the modern world, there remains a desire within humans to believe in an unexplored inner world. Thus, Agartha became not just a rumor, but a geographical belief. This invisible network, stretching from the Himalayas to the Amazon, from Antarctica to the North Pole, echoes a hidden question in humanity's collective subconscious. Is there really another world beneath us? Although the Agartha legend is one of the most fascinating underground myths told for centuries, science looks at this idea from a completely different place. Modern geology, physics, and earth sciences refute this claim from multiple angles. But curiously, no matter how much clear evidence science provides, people find it equally difficult to let go of this belief. Because the allure of Agartha stems from a mythological need that touches the human subconscious, beyond scientific logic. From a geological perspective, the Earth's interior is not a void, but a layered system. It consists of four main layers: the crust, mantle, outer core, and inner core. The crust is on average 35 kilometers thick, and beneath it lies the mantle, extending to a depth of approximately 2,900 kilometers. Temperatures in this region range between 1,000 and 3,000 degrees Celsius. Deeper still, the outer core consists of liquid iron and nickel. Temperatures reach 4,000 to 6,000 degrees. The innermost core is almost as hot as the sun's surface, about 7,000 degrees. In such an environment of intense pressure and temperature, the existence of a city or civilization is physically impossible. What about the hollow Earth theory? According to this theory, the Earth is not solid but a massive shell. Inside the shell is a second habitat. However, this idea was born from the scientific ignorance of the 19th century. At that time, there was no definitive data about the Earth's internal structure. But seismic measurements conducted in the mid-20th century, analyzing the speed and direction of earthquake waves passing through the ground, proved that the internal structure is dense. For example, the inability of S-waves, shear waves, to propagate through the outer core clearly shows that this region is liquid. If the Earth were truly hollow, seismic waves would create a different pattern as they pass through it. But no measurement has ever shown such a thing. Yet, the secret tunnels theory did not die so easily. Some researchers suggested that massive underground caves or lava tubes could be Agarthan remnants. However, these formations are entirely natural products of geological processes. Volcanic lava can sometimes leave voids kilometers long in the Earth's crust. This is frequently observed in regions like Hawaii and Iceland. But these voids are only a few meters high and lack a breathable oxygen balance. So, they can neither host giant cities nor form permanent habitats. Despite being scientifically refuted, why is the Agartha legend still so powerful? The answer lies in psychology and the collective consciousness. Carl Jung's concept of the collective unconscious comes into play here. According to Jung, the common myths of human history are not just cultural heritage but also archetypes of our unconscious. The concept of the underworld is a symbol of both fear and wisdom in the human mind. The descent into the underworld is often a spiritual journey in myths. Descending into the subconscious, confronting darkness, being reborn. Therefore, Agartha is not just a geographical place, it is actually the hidden self in the depths of the human mind. In this aspect, Agartha is mythologically based on the same theme as Orpheus's descent into Hades, Dante's journey through hell, and Plato's cave allegory. Humans always seek the meaning lost in the world above, in the world below, that is, in their inner world. This is why, even though science declares Agartha impossible, the search continues. Because people want to find not only places that are not on the map, but also the parts they have lost within themselves. Another reason for the resurgence of Agartha's popularity in the modern era is the paradox of unconsciousness, created by technology. The internet and social media have amplified a hunger for meaning within an abundance of information. To fill this void, people now resort not only to scientific explanations but also to alternative truths. In this regard, Agartha has become one of the strongest examples of the modern myth. On one hand, it is presented as true by conspiracy theorists. On the other, it is narrated as a metaphor for spiritual ascension by spiritual communities. Another interesting point is the appearance of this legend in similar forms across different cultures. Japan's underwater palace, Ryugu-jo, the underworld realm in Turkish mythology, the domain ruled by Erlik Khan, and the legends of the city beneath the Iron Mountain in Central Asia all share the same motif. There is a wisdom center, a hidden civilization beneath the earth. Therefore, Agartha is not just the dream of the West or Indian culture, but a common dream of all humanity. Science proves to us that this world does not exist physically, but myths are always in pursuit of meaning, not fact. Agartha is a symbol of humanity's desire to descend into darkness to find the light within itself. Even if it is not real, it is a truth that needs to be told, because it is reborn in every age where humanity tries to understand itself. From the mid-20th century onwards, Agartha was no longer just a legend from old texts but became one of the spiritual guides of the new age. While science and technology developed rapidly, humanity's search for meaning deepened at the same pace. During the Cold War, the space race, atomic bombs, and the nuclear threat had people looking up at the sky. Everyone was searching for new worlds out there, beyond the stars. But a group of people believed that the truth was hidden not above, but below, in the heart of the earth. The Hollow Earth Society, which emerged in America in the 1950s, repopularized the idea of Agartha. This group claimed that massive openings existed at the poles, that these openings led into the earth, and that a civilization, illuminated by light, lived inside. According to them, this civilization possessed ancient wisdom and advanced technology. It was the ancient remnant of humanity that had escaped nuclear wars. Although this idea was rejected by scientific circles, it found great resonance among the public. Especially with the increase in UFO sightings, many people began to believe that these entities actually came from inside the earth. In the 1960s, the concept of Agartha settled at the center of spiritual movements. As yoga, meditation, and Eastern philosophy spread to the West, the idea of the inner world gained both spiritual and symbolic meaning. Agartha was now seen less as a physical place and more as a journey into the depths of the soul. Concepts like finding oneself, descending into the depths of consciousness, were the rebirth of this ancient myth in modern languages. Many spiritual teachings began to define Agartha as the city within the heart. Whenever one dared to listen to the silence within, one encountered ancient wisdom there. But there was another aspect to the legend. In the 1980s and 90s, alongside conspiracy theories, Agartha began to be treated as a physical place again. During this period, some researchers claimed that the Nazis had established secret bases in Antarctica in the 1940s and tried to reach Agartha through descending tunnels. It was alleged that projects to create a master race were carried out in this area, called New Berlin, or Base 211. These stories, allegedly supported by documents from Soviet archives, were in fact based on no evidence. But they became fantastic material for popular culture. Hollywood too could not remain indifferent to the allure of this myth. Films like Journey to the Center of the Earth, Atlantis, The Lost Empire, and The Core brought humanity's desire to go underground to the big screen. The traces of Agartha were always present in these stories. Lost civilizations with high technology, wise races living underground, hidden truths about human origins. Such narratives were not just entertainment, but also a reflection of the fears and desires carried in the modern human subconscious. One of the areas where Agartha found its strongest resonance in the modern era is New Age belief systems. In these teachings, Agartha is described as the home of high vibrational beings, often called light beings or Lemurians, living in the Earth's core. These beings are guides directing humanity's spiritual evolution. People who channel claim to receive messages from these beings. According to them, the Agarthan people will one day surface and unite with humanity, ushering in the Golden Age. However, even these forms of belief eventually split in two. One part saw Agartha as a spiritual metaphor, the other transformed it into a physical reality. With the advent of the Internet age, thousands of people began discussing these topics on platforms like YouTube, Reddit, and 4chan. Some users shared satellite photos allegedly showing secret entrances at the poles. Some claimed NASA censored them. Another group interpreted natural magnetic anomalies on Earth as energy gateways. Amid all these claims, Agartha has become not just a place, but a way of thinking, a symbol of resistance. For people who believe the truth is hidden from states, institutions, and official science, Agartha is the homeland of hidden knowledge. Because there is no falsehood, no war, no corruption. It is the reflection of the pure consciousness, the lost paradise, for which humanity longs. And perhaps this is why Agartha will never be found. Because people want to keep this legend alive. The lost city is, in fact, a belief that humanity can never give up. No matter how corrupt the world above becomes, a pure truth is still hidden somewhere below. Even if science refutes the legend, even if technology exposes every place with maps, Agartha continues to exist within the human being. Because sometimes, lost cities live not on maps, but in the deepest chambers of one's own soul. And that city does not appear in any satellite image, it only echoes in a silent heart.